So this happened about 2 hours ago. Trump tweeted out, "We have defeated ISIS in Syria, my only reason for being there during the Trump presidency." Now this is a very major thing, not just the tweet itself, but actually what it's linked to, which is, I will scroll up here, the Trump administration plans to pull U.S. troops from Syria immediately, defense official says. So that's the big thing, like defeating ISIS, that's something I'll get into in a second, but really we're leaving Syria, supposedly. Now, it does seem like there's all of these weird announcements about how, oh, we're leaving Afghanistan, we're leaving Iraq, and we're pulling some troops out, and they end up pulling like 60% of their troops out, and then they put some more in, and then like it seems very like, in the end, we always seem to still be there. That's what it comes down to. Like, we're still in Afghanistan, we still have troops all over the Middle East, and what it comes down to is that it seems like we're never gonna leave. It seems that we're sick and tired of war, because remember, we've been at war for way over a decade now. Basically, like we've been involved in so much of the Middle East. Remember, we're not actually at war too. Like I know I just said we've been at war, but we never actually declared war either. But essentially what's been happening is, I looked at this as the Washington Post here, I looked at the BBC and a few other sources, and they all say the Trump administration is planning to pull all troops out of Syria. The defense official said. Now, I can't find what the actual defense official said. I don't know who it is. I don't know. Like, it seems like something he just said behind closed doors to the media and no one else. Like, it wasn't some... I can't find out how much leverage this guy has, but I'm going to have to say... I'm just going to rely on and say that what they're saying is correct, that we are going to pull all troops out of Syria. Now, there's so many different topics here I want to get to, because people are going to be saying, like, oh, no, that's bad, or that's good, like, or I don't know anything about Syria. So the first thing we're going to do is just explain what actually is happening in Syria. So this is, I'm not a foreign policy expert, so if I say anything that you see as wrong, or at least even a little bit incorrect, please post some kind of correction and say, hey, you're wrong, here's why, in the comments about a certain thing I say. And then, of course, everyone else watching, just glance down in the comments here for like 2 seconds just to see if anyone posted a correction, because I'm pretty sure that what I'm saying is correct. I'm pretty sure that what I'm about to go through is most likely, as far as I can tell, it's correct. I'm not just making this stuff up. I have researched this, but I'm no expert, so I want to keep that in mind when we're going through this. So you have Syria right here. The Syria's in the Middle East. It's around Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq. It's surrounded by those kind of countries. And essentially what you have is a civil war going on. It's not just one, it's not just two different organizations, it's quite a few. So you have the Assad regime, for one. Like, Assad is basically, I know some people called him a dictator. I'm not exactly sure how accurate that is, but it's definitely not like some kind of democracy. He definitely has a lot of power and a lot of control over the people of Syria, at least until the civil war outbroke. And he's not exactly the best leader in the world. Syria's not exactly the most free country out there. But essentially you have Assad, who is, as far as I can tell, not the worst dictator in the world. I know that's not saying much. It sounds like I'm excusing anything bad that's happening, but that's really what it comes down to. Like, he seems to be better than ISIS, as far as we can tell. So a lot of people have been critical of Assad. A lot of people have been like, yeah, regime change. We need to take down Assad because he's not exactly the best leader. It's pretty awful. But we've seen how well that goes, how well regime change goes in other countries. Not so well. So essentially what happens is, here's a picture of the maps from February 2017 and December 2018. The colors might be a little bit wrong because it looks like the colors in my recording versus the colors on my screen here are a bit different, but like the light tan like area is the Assad regime. And as you can see, he really didn't have that much control of Syria back in February. He was losing pretty badly. You have armed opposition groups against him. You have the Kurdish groups. You have the Kurds up in the northeast. And then you have the Islamic State, which you can see is pretty powerful there on the left in February 2017 in the like bluish purple color. And for Gary Johnson, there's Aleppo at the top left. But yeah, essentially what happens is ISIS has been kind of taking over. They are the Islamic State. Now, remember, note that like ISIS does stand for the Islamic State in, I believe it's Iraq and Syria, and then other people call it ISIL, the Islamic State in Iraq and Libya. I believe the actual word for ISIS that they call themselves is Daesh. I might be butchering that name, but or maybe it's Daesh, something like that. But essentially, yeah, they used to control Raqqa. That was their capital city back in February. Sometime between then, I believe it was late last year or beginning of this year, they lost Raqqa. And since then, they've been kind of dwindling. As you can see in the December 2018 map, it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if I can zoom in very much. No, it doesn't look like it. But right there's a little spot there right around the middle where ISIS still exists. And as for Trump, I guess I'll address this now. As for Trump saying we've defeated ISIS, again, whether or not that's accurate, like, it's kind of a subjective thing, because when have you actually defeated an organization? Because ISIS may be a government with a state government and with taxes and actual borders, stuff like that. It does become a bit more well-defined as to when they're actually defeated, which will be like when the government is taken down. But of course, you got to remember that with an organization, it's like, have you defeated ISIS when every single member that possibly loyal to them is gone? Is it when you've taken out all the military officials? Is it when you've taken all the official land? But then again, what defines official? That kind of thing. So you can see there is a significant difference here. You can barely see ISIS here. At the moment, like, it's pretty much nothing. It still exists. I will say that. Like, ISIS is not gone. It is still there. But look at how small that is. So that's the thing where it all comes down to, like, who do you think's going to win here? This little sliver of ISIS here, or Assad and the Kurds? And that's the thing. It all comes down to, we don't have to stay there until every last single troop in every cave is gone. At that point, I know people are going to be nitpicking and saying ISIS is still around. I think we're good enough. Like, I honestly think we're good enough in that sense. I don't think we need to stick around and just start investigating the whole world until we find every last bit of ISIS. Let's get that out of the way. But yeah, that's what's been happening. That's what's been happening lately. They've lost a ton of power. We've been working with Assad, kind of, and a few other organizations, and a lot of people have been very critical for the U.S. for basically creating ISIS. That was something that Trump criticized Obama for saying that he created ISIS. He wasn't actually saying that Obama was the founder and was like, yeah, I'm the founder of ISIS. Let's establish this thing called ISIS. He wasn't saying that. He's saying that Obama's actions in foreign policy basically led to the creation of ISIS and led to their power, which is pretty much true, honestly. Like, it's the rise of ISIS has definitely had a lot to do with the United States. Most of that being, people say we're funding ISIS. It's not like we're directly funding ISIS, but more usually what happens is, like, we give money to an anti-Assad organization because we're supposed to be anti-Assad. We give money to them. We give missiles and resources and all these things to those groups, and those groups are allied with ISIS. So they're like, here, ISIS, like, let's share some of our resources here. And there's all kinds of different references and citations of people saying, like, hey, why is ISIS using U.S. missiles? Why is ISIS driving U.S. Humvees, as Rand Paul said? That's essentially what's happening. That there's been a lot of criticism for that. Actually, I just realized Bukamal in December of 2018, it looks like Bukamal also is controlled by ISIS as well. Or at least they have some influence there, but it's right along the border, so maybe that's still currently in progress. It looks like Assad is still fighting for that. And again, like, look at this map here on December 2018. I think Assad's going to win without the U.S. That's what it seems like, at least. But yeah, we're pulling out, and that's great. That is fantastic. And it's not because I am a secret Putin supporter. It's not because I am loyal to Russia. It's not like I'm a Russian agent or I'm a Russian bot. Clearly, this is all here. This is all electronic. This isn't a camera. This is actually all CGI. But no, this is something that's been bugging me lately. With, like, if you look back at that tweet that I just referenced, there are all these people going like, "Wow, proof that you're with Russia. Proof that you're doing this for Putin." Putin benefits from this. I will say that Putin does benefit from this because he is in favor of the Assad regime. Assad is an ally to Russia, at least in an informal sense, and by leaving, like, Russia has been on the pro-Assad, anti-ISIS side. The U.S. has basically been somewhere in the middle. How that works is we've been fighting ISIS, but we're also not very much in favor of Assad, so we've been criticizing Assad. As you might remember, we were talking about pulling out all our troops several times, something that would have been great for Assad. Sometimes they were talking about regime change against Assad, but it just seems this has happened 3 times. Most people remember the last 2 under the Trump presidency because of the strikes, but not too many people remember the earliest one, or at least the earliest that I'm aware of, which was March of 2015, where I believe it was March. I might be a month off or so there, but March of 2015, where it happened the first time that I'm aware of Assad gassing his own people. And it seems rather odd because it's like, everything is going well for Assad. ISIS is being defeated. Assad's taking back power. The US is not even talking about regime change. Russia's not talking about regime change. Everyone's happy with Assad. Assad seems to be pretty well established in control. And then all of a sudden, he decides to gas his own people, something that has no benefit whatsoever, and something that seems to really upset the US to the point where, like, regime change maybe. So that's something that it's like, there's pretty much no evidence that it was Assad. It seems to be like it was framed against him, that he supposedly gassed his own people, because it does not make any logical sense. And people are being like, oh, Assad's just a crazy dictator. Like, why would you? Like, of course he's crazy. It's not that he's crazy. Like, he's not crazy. He's just corrupt, I guess you could say. There's a difference between being, evil, or I don't even know if he's evil or not, but there's a difference between being like a dictator and being nuts. Like, Kim Jong-un is not nuts. People think he's like nuts and he's just ready to just blow up everything. He's not nuts. He's just pretty corrupt and pretty awful. But yeah, like, as for the Syria strikes, people are going to be bringing that up. Like, why are we just letting Syria do it? Why are we letting Assad control Syria when he seems to be gassing his own people? And all the investigations so far seem to turn up nil. We have not seen any evidence that it actually was Assad. And obviously, of course, like, obviously you can't really trust the Assad regime to say, oh, we didn't do this. But yeah, basically, like, you can't, it doesn't seem like he did it. But anyway, to wrap this up, this is a good thing, that we are pulling out troops, finally. And this is something that Trump even campaigned for, was to defeat ISIS and then pull the troops out. And a lot of people were worried because when it came to foreign policy, he seems to be doing the exact opposite. He seemed to be going even harder and even more involved in foreign policy, which was not what a lot of people voted for him for. But now that he's actually pulling out, this is something that's nice to see. Now, again, it hasn't actually officially happened, but again, we'll go back to the actual headline. U.S. plans to pull U.S. troops from Syria immediately. Like, this isn't some over the course of 10 years or 5 years. This is immediately. Like, we're pulling out our troops, which is good. That is what we want. And just because it just so happens to help Putin does not mean that, like, this is a bad thing. We're not doing this because of Putin. It's like, we shouldn't have even been there in the first place. We're wrapping up and then we're going home. Like, we don't have to be, it just bugs me because a lot of the anti-Putin people, which again, I'm not pro-Putin. Like, he's not exactly a super nice guy. He's not exactly a very nice leader, even though he has a rather high approval rating. But again, it's like, we're talking Russia, so does he have a high approval rating, or is this are those numbers legit? That's a question. Certainly worth asking. But just because something happens to benefit Russia doesn't mean it also doesn't benefit everyone else. This is fine. Like, this is a good thing that we should be celebrating, that we are pulling out of Syria. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I'm glad to see that this is happening. I'm glad to see that we are actually, for once, leaving a country. And it does bug me to see all the people that are all of a sudden, like, super pro-war just because they're anti-Trump. It's like, you have to pick one. In a lot of, like, for the past few years, you didn't have to pick one. You didn't have to pick being pro-war or being anti-war and being anti-Trump. Usually you could be both of those pretty consistently so far in the presidency. And as I have been, like, pretty much, I've been anti-war and against the Syria strikes and that, and a lot of people have been. And now that we're actually pulling out, it's like, okay, you have to understand that this is a good thing. Just because Trump said it happen or is making it happen doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. And actually, in the next video I'll be recording on the whole bump stocks thing, it's like, yeah, he can do bad things. I'm accepting that he can do bad stuff, and the bump stocks thing is one of them. But this is a good thing. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.